Please be seated. Professor Philip L. Glick, Mace Bearer, Chair of the University Faculty Senate and Professor of Surgery and Management, will officially open the ceremony. Professor Glick.
Provost Sikorsky. Professor Glick. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Members of the University at Buffalo, Council, Foundation, the graduates, the candidates for degrees, the faculty, the staff, the parents, families, and friends of the graduates, and candidates are now assembled. I hereby declare commencement at the University of Buffalo to be open.
Thank you, Professor Glick. Good afternoon. My name is Charles Smith. I hold the Slee Chair of Music Theory here at UB. In fact, I run the Music Theory program. And I'm taking a few hours off from grading exams on this gray and gloomy Sunday afternoon to welcome you to the College of Arts and Sciences undergraduate commencement ceremony. Those of you who are veterans of UB commencements in previous years will have figured out that we've done something new this year. We've split the program into two parts. This afternoon is a commencement ceremony for the humanities and for the social sciences. This is indeed a very special day for our graduates and for our entire university. Each spring, the university's faculty, staff, and students look forward to celebrating the accomplishments and great promise of our graduating students as they prepare to embark on the exciting academic and professional paths that their UB education has prepared them to pursue. Over 800 degree candidates registered to participate in this afternoon's ceremony. Your enthusiasm has brought an equally enthusiastic response from your families and friends. We are so very pleased that you could all join us today for this special campus celebration. We ask you now to join in the singing of our national anthem to be performed by graduating students Matthew Rivera and Nicole Weitzman. Accompanying them on piano will be staff pianist Alan Paglia. Please stand, and gentlemen, remove your caps.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Please be seated. Thank you, Matthew, Nicole, and Alan. It's my very great pleasure now to introduce some special guests on our platform. We are honored to be joined by New York United States Senator Charles Schumer and Minority Leader of the U.S. Senate. Yeah. Our student representative to the University at Buffalo Council, Mr. James Cora, who is graduating today. University at Buffalo Foundation Secretary and UB alumna, Ms. Jean Powers. And our featured speakers, from whom you will hear shortly. Many UB faculty and staff members are also participating in this morning's ceremony. They share our great pride in the class of 2017, and they represent the greatest asset that we offer to our students. Please join me in thanking our faculty and staff for their outstanding work and their commitment to our university community. The faculty and the staff. It is now my pleasure to present the Provost and Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs at the University at Buffalo, Charles F. Zukowski.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm thrilled to be here this afternoon for the 2017 College of Arts and Sciences, Humanities, and Social Sciences Commencement. It is fabulous to be here with you, our graduates, your family, your friends, and the university community to celebrate our graduates' exceptional achievements to date and to place on them the burden that we expect more from you when you graduate. As one of the nation's leading public research universities, UB has a mission of creating new knowledge and communicating this knowledge to you, the next generation of leaders, professionals, researchers, artists, and citizens. We take seriously our responsibility to improve the human condition through our scholarship, creative activities, clinical care, and engagement. We are living in an era of excitement and uncertainty, characterized by fast-paced technological changes, a strong and evolving knowledge-based economy, and an ever-changing political and social dynamic. Now, more than ever, we need scholars and professionals in the humanities and social sciences who understand human culture, society, behavior, language, history, and narrative. This understanding is needed in order to learn how to negotiate new forms of communication, best use of technology, better understand our new economy and society, and how to live good lives. Graduates, as UB students, you have learned from the most respected thought leaders and practitioners in the humanities and social sciences, and you have been partners in the process of seeking and using knowledge and understanding to build a better world. You have taken advantage of the faculty-led and individual research opportunities. You have pursued individual interests through independent studies. You have studied abroad. You've participated in literary readings and field work. You have put your knowledge into practice through internships, community service, and extracurricular activities. Just as importantly, you have worked hard, gained exposure to ideas, culture, history, science, technologies, and had meaningful interactions with your peers and professors. These are the experiences that shape your unique perspective and way of approaching the world. It is this distinctive combination of classroom and field learning and out-of-class experiences that enable you to develop the creativity, the empathy, the creative thinking, and the leadership skills needed for your graduate study or for your future careers. Your UB education has prepared you to be responsive to the shifting trends and needs that our world is going to throw at you, and be able to apply your knowledge and skills in different ways, meet challenges head-on, and take advantage of opportunities. These are the attributes that will assure your success in the future, no matter what it may bring. More importantly, your education has prepared you to be active and engaged citizens. Each of you has the capacity to change the world. And I urge you to take what you have learned here at UB and apply it to the betterment of society. My sincere and heartfelt congratulations to the 2017 University at Buffalo College of Arts and Sciences, Humanities, and Social Sciences graduates. We are very proud of all that you have accomplished. Amen. I'm very pleased now to introduce our special guest today. Minority Leader of the United States Senate, Senator Charles Schumer of New York, to bring greetings to our graduates. All right, so one second. He is a native of Brooklyn, New York, and he spent a lifetime serving the people of New York. He served in the New York State Assembly and the United States House of Representatives for a combined total of 24 years before being elected to the United States Senate in 1998. As senator, he has been a valued friend and supporter of Western New York region and the University at Buffalo. Senator Schumer, thank you for being here. Thank you very much, Senator. Glad you're here.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Provost Zukoski, and it's my honor to address the members of the platform, the friends and families of the graduates, but most of all, you, the class UB 2017. Congratulations. And I'd like to thank the faculty and staff and everybody, because UB is one of the best institutions of higher learning, not only in our state and in our country, but in our world. So this is a great accomplishment, and thank you very much. Now, I'd first like to announce my class gift. As you know, it's hard to pay for college and graduate school. If you're poor, the federal government helps you out. That's a good thing. But what about the middle class? So a few years ago, I wrote a law that said you or your parents, whoever paid for college, can take as a full tax credit $2,500 off your federal taxes for every year of college and of graduate school, provided, in Washington there's always a provided your family income is below $200,000 a year. So if you come from a family that makes below $200,000, make sure you or mom or dad, whoever paid, takes that credit. Last year, because it's relatively new, only about a quarter of all the people who are entitled didn't do it. If you happen to forget, you can fill out a very easy, simple form with the IRS and get up to $7,500 back in the mail. Not a bad class gift. Now, what happens to those who come from families who make above $200,000 a year? God bless you. I'd like to say a word to the moms and dads. I know how you feel, because a few short years ago, my wife Iris and I sat where you did, watched our daughter Jessica come up on the platform and get her diploma. It was one of the greatest days of our lives, and I'm sure it is for you. You're going to watch your sons and daughters become adults before your very eyes. Good job, moms and dads. Congratulations to you. And one more word of thanks. While we're sitting here having a great afternoon, there are young men and women in the armed forces, many of them overseas, many of them from New York State, and some are in very dangerous places like Iraq and Afghanistan. They are risking their lives for our freedom. Let's have a round of applause for them as well. And one final little happy note, your student speaker today, Megan Glander, was an intern in my office, and she did such a good job, we've hired her. After she leaves here, she's coming to work for me. Megan, we can't wait. So now, to this great class, this great class of Buffalo 2017, UB. What a great class you are. And you're graduating at a time of enormous change in our country and around the world. It's profound, economic change, social change. The world is moving so very, very fast. Now, in the old days, when you graduated from college, the odds were pretty high that you'd have the same job or work in the same field for the next 40 years. That's not so true anymore. Many of you will have many different jobs, and many of you will have several different careers. Along with those economic changes, the internet has put so much information at your fingertips that it's sometimes hard to figure out what's important and to distinguish between what's true and what isn't. Even around the world, everything is changing. A generation ago, Things like terrorism and suicide bombings were never heard of. But the good news is this: your generation is perhaps better equipped than any generation that's come before it to adapt to these changes, to overcome the obstacles they present, and seize the opportunities they afford. To pursue your passions, to accomplish big things, you can do it. Right now, though, sitting in your seats, you may not be exactly sure of what's going to come next. With so much of the world changing, it's understandable that sometimes you feel like you're jumping into an abyss. But my advice to the graduates: the key is not to fear the unknown. Embrace it, relish it, soak it up for every possibility it has to offer. How do I know? Because I had similar feelings when I graduated from college several decades ago. When I was seated at college graduation, as you are today, I had just learned that I had won a scholarship to travel all around the world, all expenses paid, for a whole year. For me, it was an opportunity of a lifetime. I had never been out of the country before. But at the same time, I had met a girl, and I fell in love. So, class, I had to decide. Do I go around the world for a whole year on the all-expense-paid scholarship? Or do I stay home with the girl, my first true love? Class of 2017, what would you have done? Provost, the class is divided. Well, I stayed home with the girl. I see you romantics in the fourth row are clapping. Hold your horses, the story unfolds. That summer, she went on a brief vacation, and I went to the airport to meet her on her return. As soon as she got off the plane, I saw by the look on her face something was the matter. She dumped me by Labor Day. There I was, no scholarship, no trip around the world, no girl. I said to myself, what a loser you are. You're never going to make anything of yourself. Hang it up, give up. And in fact, I stayed in my house for several months, moped around, felt sorry for myself. But somehow I picked myself up, dusted myself off, and moved forward. And a few years later, I found myself seated at graduation, this time from law school. But on the way home from law school, I told Mom and Dad I wasn't going to join the fancy law firm like we had planned. I told them I loved politics. My dream was to run for office. Well, my parents, as you could imagine, were shocked. My mother was particularly disappointed. You see, I came from a working-class family. My dad was an exterminator, never went to college, never made much money. And the law firm was paying $400 a week, which in those days was more money than my family had ever seen. But my dream was to run for office, and so that fall, against very long odds, I ran for the New York State Assembly, and I had 3 opponents. There was the party machine candidate, there was a neighborhood activist, and then there was my mother, who was telling all her friends not to vote for me. So as she said, I'd get this dumb idea of being a politician out of my big, thick head. Well, graduates, a few years earlier, I sure didn't get that girl. But that November, I won the election. And the rest is history. So, I want to say to you on this great day of your graduation, my advice to you is take that risk. Don't let the fear of failure deter you, even though the world is so different and changing so fast. You know, for those of us who have gotten older and look back on life, one of the things we regret the most is what I call the what-ifs. What if I had only done this? What if I had only done that? That is something people always look back on with regret. So my advice to the class of 2017 is very simple. Go for it. You're about to cast off into the unknown. It can sometimes be very scary, but you've got great assets. One of the best undergraduate educations in America, families that will have your back through thick and thin no matter what happens. So garner up the courage, garner up the strength, put aside your doubts, take a chance, and if you do, it is my hope, it is my prayer, and indeed, it is my confidence that you will find true success and true joy in life. To the graduates of this great class of 2017, UB, congratulations. Good luck. Godspeed, and don't forget, go for it.
Senator Schumer, thank you very much. Really appreciate you coming. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Senator Schumer. One more round of applause for the senator. It is my pleasure now to introduce the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, Robin Schulze. Robin.
Thank you, Provost Zukoski. Well, congratulations, class of 2017. You are special. The fact that you are sitting here means that you have done everything right. You are graduates of a first-class, world-class research institution, and I am very proud of you and everything that you have achieved at UB. And as you head out into your amazing futures, I want to let you in on a little secret. You are all really superheroes. No, really, superheroes. You know, tights and boots and big letters and wristlets and tiaras and things. Oh, sure, you don't know it yet, but you are. And today, you even have capes. What I really mean to say is that you have absolutely no idea right now just how much you've learned here. Oh, sure, you've passed your exams and read your books and done your problem sets and written your papers and completed your experiments. You've acquired a vast amount of content knowledge and a host of skills. But the depth of what you have learned is going to sneak up on you, and it's going to amaze you. In this great college, you have learned how to learn, and that is your principal superpower. You've learned how to be resilient, determined, and like the buffalo on our seal, amazingly hard to get rid of. You've learned how to be the person in the room who steps up, the person in the room who knows how to find things out, the person in the room to whom others turn for answers and advice, the person in the room who, when knocked down, gets up, brushes off, and tries again and again and again, because that's who we are at UB. You've learned to be the person who cares about knowledge and science and art and culture, and who knows how to do the research to determine what is true and what is not. And that, too, is a superpower. You will be the informed global citizen who creates the future, and whether you know it now or not. UB is your radioactive spider, your cosmic rays, your happy mutation, and the place will figure large in your origin story. You've learned how to do all of this here in this great college at this great university, and you are taking all of this with you. And when you come to understand all of what this place has given you, I want you to remember how proud we are to have you as our graduates. It is now my great privilege to introduce this year's alumni speaker, Peter Kadzik. Peter graduated summa cum laude from UB, earning a bachelor's degree in political science in 1974. He's also Phi Beta Kappa. He went on to receive his law degree from Georgetown University Law Center in 1977, and later clerked for the Honorable Thomas A. Flannery of the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. He served as an assistant U.S. attorney in the District of Columbia before moving into private practice. In 2013, he returned to government service when President Obama appointed Peter Assistant Attorney General for the Office of Legislative Affairs at the Department of Justice. He served in this position until President Obama left office in January 2017. Peter bleeds blue and white, and I'm very happy to have him back to campus as our distinguished alumni speaker. Welcome, Peter Kadzak.
Thank you, Dean Schulze, for that kind introduction, and thank you, Provost Zukowski and Dean Schulze, for your extraordinary leadership of this great university. After the last 4 years serving as an Assistant Attorney General for Legislative Affairs, usually when I'm in front of an audience, it was a congressional committee that did not like something the Obama Justice Department had done. So I'm not used to this warm of a welcome. But having spent the last 4 years in public service and having been in politics for more than 30 years, I'm frequently asked two questions. One, what happened in the last election? And two, why is Washington so dysfunctional? And that's what I want to talk to you about today, because you graduates, whatever you go on to do next and wherever you live, you can play a significant role in fixing what's broken. But before I do, let me say that it's great to be back at the university. But I have to tell you that the campus I attended, now called the South Campus, did not have the amenities that you enjoy today. One of the key benefits of the South Campus, however, was that the closest bar was called the library. Thus, every week I could tell my parents, with all honesty, that I'd spent a great deal of time in the library. In my defense, I also spent a good deal of time at Lockwood Library, because I considered it a privilege to be studying at the university. All four of my grandparents were immigrants from Poland, and they worked hard so that my parents could graduate from high school. And my parents worked hard so that my brother and I could attend college and graduate school. I was the beneficiary of the American dream, and I did not want to squander the tremendous opportunity that was provided to me. While I learned a great deal at both libraries, it was my coursework at UB that prepared me for Georgetown Law School. In the spirit of participation and activism which permeated the UB campus, from the protests against the Vietnam War to working on local political campaigns to mentoring inner-city kids, that led me to both law and politics. Following my formative years at UB, I decided to attend Georgetown Law in Washington, D.C., because it was at the epicenter of law and politics. It was the summer of 1974. President Nixon had just resigned. The Senate Watergate Committee was conducting hearings on Capitol Hill, and the so-called plumbers were being tried in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia for the Watergate break-in. It was the perfect storm in D.C., which made it the perfect time and the perfect place for law school. I credit how well prepared I felt due to the excellent education I had received at UB. This school truly set the stage for the rest of my career. Obviously, the political science courses I had taken here, particularly American politics with Professor Stimson, explored the issues of elections in a democracy, and I was witnessing firsthand how that process had been corrupted. But my other courses provided me with a different lens through which I could analyze the crisis that faced this country. Whether it was philosophy, English, mathematics, literature, sociology, or psychology, all of my professors taught me to think critically and emphasized the need to examine a text, a theory, or a political position in an analytical manner so as to gauge the idea's true worth. There's really no course or major that can prepare you for law school or most graduate schools or most jobs. No, what prepares you is the ability to analyze a situation or a proposition, and I'm here to tell you that as soon-to-be graduates of UB, you have that ability. After a judicial clerkship and serving as an assistant U.S. attorney, my career then took an unusual but incredibly impactful turn when I went to work on Senator Ted Kennedy's presidential campaign in 1980. He didn't win, And the fact that you don't always win is a very good lesson to learn if you're going to go into politics, but it certainly whetted my thirst for politics, which I was first exposed to at UB. Throughout my legal career, I remained active in politics and worked on every presidential campaign for the next 32 years. Having operated at the intersection of law and politics for all those years, and having seen light at the end of the tuition tunnel as my children finished college and graduate school, something I'm sure many of your proud parents and family members here today appreciate all too well, I was humbled and honored to be nominated by President Obama and confirmed by the United States Senate, with the support and assistance of Leader Schumer, to serve as the Assistant Attorney General for the Office of Legislative Affairs. Once again, it was the perfect time and the perfect place as the department defended the President's executive orders on immigration, Obamacare, and the investigations resulting from the financial crisis. And I feel extremely grateful for having had the opportunity to serve at such an important time for the Department of Justice and this country. So back to those questions. What happened in the last election? Why is Washington so dysfunctional? Regardless of the political leanings of the person making the inquiry, my response is the same. As Winston Churchill said, it has been said that democracy is the worst form of government, except all others that have been tried. Yes, democracy is messy, but I'm confident that our republic will not only survive, but grow and thrive as a result of the challenges we routinely face. Our founders appreciated the fact that there would be contentious political issues and partisan disputes in the electoral process, so they designed a system of government with the checks and balances contained in our Constitution. But the most important of those checks and balances is democracy itself. As Thomas Paine said, the right of voting for representatives is the primary right by which all other rights are protected. However, the most important safeguard only protects our republic when people actually vote, which at best, half of the eligible voters do. And more importantly, people vote in an informed manner. When all citizens participate and exercise critical thinking, democracy thrives. First and foremost, every citizen must register and vote. Democracy only works when citizens participate, and throughout the course of our nation's history, this country rightly continued to expand voting rights. Originally, the restrictions on voting rights were limited to white male landowners. Over the course of 200 years, we expanded the right to vote to women because of the long overdue recognition of gender equality, to people of color because of the burgeoning movement to end racial discrimination, from 21-year-olds to 18-year-olds, because if you were old enough to fight for our country, you should have the right to vote for the leaders who made that decision. Recently, arduous and unnecessary voter identification laws have been passed in more than a dozen states, and they threaten to disenfranchise a large segment of our population for no compelling reason. When challenged in court, the state of Indiana could not point to a single documented instance of voter impersonation in its history. I've seen the negative effects of these requirements firsthand. In my legal practice, I represented a voter registration group that assisted citizens in registering and voting. We learned of a situation in which an elderly African-American woman living on a small Social Security check would have to spend more than $75 to get her birth certificate in order to obtain the approved identification necessary to vote. That really amounts to what Congressman John Lewis has called a poll tax, and such taxes were outlawed long ago for sound and just reasons. Similarly, reductions in the number of polling places, in early voting, and in absentee voting also can adversely impact particular segments of our population. Rather than limiting the availability of the ballot box, we need to expand opportunities for every American to participate in the electoral process. In one common sense, straightforward example, we should urge states to implement early voting at night and on the weekends to allow working people, parents, and those who cannot, for whatever reason, get to their voting place on Election Day. They should have the ability to exercise their constitutional right to vote. Many other democratic countries around the globe have enacted such measures because full participation not only makes a democracy more vibrant, but also makes elected officials more reflective of the people they represent. Once we open the process to all and remove barriers to participation, we need to do a better job of educating our voters. As Thomas Jefferson said, whenever the people are well informed, they can be trusted with their own government. It can be challenging to be well informed these days. Today we live in a society that is battered by not only fake news, but also by blogs and so-called opinion columns that are not based on ascertainable facts. We also have politicians, political figures, and talking heads who routinely need to be fact-checked to ascertain the veracity of their statements. Learning to sift through the endless chatter to discern facts from fiction is not an easy process, particularly on the internet, but it is absolutely critical. I helped form and have worked for many years with a nonprofit, nonpartisan group called the News Literacy Project. This group, started by Pulitzer Prize-winning former journalist, has developed a curriculum for high school and middle school students, as well as a virtual classroom, aptly named Checkology, that gives educators and students the tools they need to consume news and sort fact from fiction in the digital age. First-rate journalists are guest lecturers and arm these students with the necessary skills to be their own fact-checkers. The scope of this project is expanding through Facebook and other key partnerships in order to provide the ability to engage in critical thinking to the entire population. Critical thinking has been at the heart of your education here at the University of Buffalo, and I urge you today to take that invaluable skill with you as you leave this university and move forward in your careers, no matter what field you choose or where you live. That critical thinking, matched with the spirit of participation that permeates this campus, is essential to maintaining our vibrant democracy and the checks and balances of our Constitution. Critical thinking and participation are essential to any political system. Once an election is over, a citizen's obligation to participate in the political process doesn't end. While at the university, you participated in student government, activities, clubs, fraternities and sororities, and athletics. These activities form the heart of the campus and the university's culture. Similarly, advocacy groups, town halls, community and political groups are avenues for participation in the democratic process and form the heart of our communities. Once an official is elected, he or she must be responsive to his or her constituents, all of the constituents, not just those who voted for him or her. A 51% vote doesn't entitle the majority party to ignore the rights, needs, and interests of the minority party. It is the responsibility of elected officials to reach compromises that ensure the viewpoints are considered when an issue is decided. It used to be that legislators on both sides of the aisle routinely worked together to reach the right result. Times have changed, and now we see politicians of both parties taking highly partisan, unwavering positions that prevent them from working together for the greater good. The hard lines recently drawn over the Garland and Gorsuch Supreme Court nominations illustrate this problem. A different approach was entirely possible in both cases, and in fact prevailed some 35 years ago. In 1980, President Reagan won by a landslide, and the Democrats lost the Senate. Now Justice Stephen Breyer was then a staffer on the Senate Judiciary Committee, which was chaired by the time by Senator Kennedy. Kennedy had challenged President Jimmy Carter for the Democratic nomination and lost. Nonetheless, two remarkable things occurred. First, Kennedy called a senior advisor to President Carter and asked that Breyer be nominated to the First Circuit Court of Appeals. The advisor's initial reaction was that Carter was unlikely to be inclined to do anything for Kennedy. And the advisor also noted that the Republicans were unlikely to want to confirm a Democrat to the prestigious First Circuit now that they would take over the Senate in January. Kennedy told the advisor to convince Carter, and Kennedy would deal with the Republicans. The end result was that Breyer was nominated in November and confirmed in December. Imagine that, an eminently qualified jurist took the bench without partisan rancor. These types of events can still happen today. There can be common ground, there can be compromise, but we must demand it. You as a voter and an engaged citizen must continue to remain active in issues that concern you, no matter where you live or work. You must demand that your elected representatives take account of all citizens. Voting in elections is not enough. Democracy demands wisdom, vision, and participation by its citizens. I have enormous faith in each of you, and I know that our republic and other democracies around the world will not just survive, but thrive. But you need to take the knowledge and call to action that you learned on this campus and apply them to the political system. And as a fellow alum, I look forward to watching the remarkable things that you accomplish as we all continue to fight the good fight in this great country and throughout the world. I wish you the very best. Congratulations, good luck, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kadzik. Today, we wish to acknowledge exceptional graduating students who have recently received the State University of New York's Chancellor's Award for Student Excellence. The recipients, nominated by the individual SUNY campuses, have demonstrated outstanding academic achievement and have received national or international recognition for their efforts. Recently, all of these students attended a reception hosted by SUNY Chancellor Nancy Zimpher in Albany. At that time, they were all presented with their awards. 3 of these students are graduating here in this afternoon's ceremony. Would the students who are present please stand to be acknowledged as I read your name? Audience, please hold your applause until I've read all 3. So the first is Madeline M. Britt. Madeline? Well, maybe not. Then Wan Woong Taiwer Choi. And finally, Andrea D. Kniper. Congratulations, students. And please take your seats. This morning, we also have the pleasure of recognizing another group of Student Award recipients. Departments within the College of Arts and Sciences have selected graduates to be honored with the Outstanding Academic Achievement Award. Presenting these awards is Dean Schulze.
I would like to ask Provost Sukoski and Associate Deans Charles Mitchell and Claire Shen to please assist me with the presentation of these awards. At this time, I would like to ask the group of outstanding seniors to please stand and come forward. The undergraduate years are special and involve many rich and varied experiences. As a public research university, UB's guiding mission is the pursuit of academic excellence. The students we are about to honor have not only been exemplars of academic achievement, they have also been active in and dedicated to service at the university and in the community. A short biographical note on each of the students honored today is printed in the commencement program. Some of the students were part of this morning's Arts, Natural Sciences, and Mathematics and Interdisciplinary Programs commencement. All of today's honorees have outstanding grade point averages. Many are honor students and members of Phi Beta Kappa, as well as other honor societies. They have superb scholastic records and have successfully completed challenging undergraduate research projects. In addition to their academic accomplishments, these students have earned the admiration of their departments. Being an outstanding senior is more than an honorific at UB. During their time at UB, these students have demonstrated their tenacity and set examples for their peers. We are extremely proud of these students' achievements, and now let me introduce the outstanding seniors who are part of this afternoon's ceremony by department. And please hold your applause until I've announced them all. Samara Jackson, Anthropology. Rebecca Gaziurek, Asian Studies. Zephyr Smith, Classics. Anna Alhoud, Communication. Rebecca Jaffe, Communicative Disorders and Sciences. Andrea Neiper, Economics. Sushmita Gelda, English. Jenna Jędrowski, Geography. Christopher Jakubowski, History. Lucas Dickish, Linguistics. Jedediah Kalmanovsky, Philosophy. Nauman Maloli, Political Science. Alejandro Corona Espinosa, Psychology. Kara Walsh, Romance Languages and Literatures. Taylor Brown, Sociology. Kara Dunavant, Transnational Studies. Congratulations, outstanding seniors. Next, I have the great pleasure of introducing our student speaker, Megan Glander of Campbell Hall, New York. Megan graduates today summa cum laude with a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science and Communication. She is a University Honors College Scholar and a member of Phi Beta Kappa. While at the University of Buffalo, Megan served as the Vice President of the Student Association and is a proud member of Alpha Sigma Tau sorority. After graduation, she will go on to work for the United States Senate Democratic leader Charles E. Schumer, whom she impressed as an intern. It is my sincere pleasure to welcome our student commencement speaker for this afternoon's ceremony, Megan Glander.
Thank you, Dean Schultze, Provost, distinguished guests, and faculty, overly emotional parents, and hello, class of 2017. Well, we did it. While we sit here today, many of us may feel uncertain about our future or what the next chapter of our life looks like. I know during Thanksgiving break this past year, the uncertainty hit me hard. I'm sure many of you can relate to the Thanksgiving blues. These occur when your overachieving cousins are at the graduation table and your relatives ask them about their post-graduation plans, and then the attention somehow turns to you at the table and you get kind of nervous. For many of us, the future includes graduate school, going into the workforce, or even traveling the world. And while the future is important, we should take today to live in the present and to not forget the past that we have built here at UB together. I remember my first day at UB distinctly. The university had a pretty big guest, then President of the United States, Barack Obama. So I'm sure a lot of parents out there remember how hectic the traffic was. When my parents finally left me at governor's residence halls, I decided to explore the campus, map in one hand, schedule in the other. On top of that, as you know, there's really only two major times when students visit the university bookstore. Freshman year, when we're coming in, or senior year, when we're leaving. So they'll get good business today. So I was fully decked out in UB gear. While I was roaming campus looking for my first class of the day in the Natural Science Complex, I couldn't find the room anywhere. So I was so busy looking at a campus map that I actually ran into an upperclassman, full force. He was nice about it and told me I looked a little confused and asked me where I was going, and I said, well, NSC 225. He laughed at me, and it was because I was in the completely wrong building. He then pointed me the right way and asked, are you a freshman? I laughed, asking if it was that obvious. Then he pointed to the lanyard around my neck. So that was the last time I wore that lanyard around my neck. He then explained that this was his last day at UB, and this was one of the best journeys of his life. At the time, I didn't take it to heart, but here on my graduation day, I can proudly say that this has been one of my favorite chapters. What once were hallways that we hardly recognized our first few weeks here have become our favorite spots to meet with friends like SU or Baird Point. What once was just a library has become our place for major breakthroughs, or in my case, breakdowns, for that tough class we took one semester. Most important, if you're like me, what once was just a Starbucks has now become a daily necessity. As students, a lot has changed here. We saw a major presidential election, big changes on campus like a new Capen library, and most importantly, we saw ourselves change. As we became upperclassmen, we were able to experience so much that UB had to offer, together. I remember turning to my dad during new student orientation saying I would never do a mud volleyball tournament, but I participated in Ooze Fest every year. And I also remember being terrified of public speaking, and well, here I am. And that's what's so great about UB. We were always encouraged to try new things, meet new people, and throughout this process, many of us discovered who we truly are. This campus that was once so unfamiliar has become a home to all of us. This past year, UB changed its branding and adopted the motto, "Here is how." Now, at first, I didn't get that statement or how it related to UB. I kind of just saw a big sign one day and was wondering, what's UB up to today? But now, on graduation day, I get it. When we look back on this journey, we won't think of the piece of paper we earned. We will remember the people we met, the experiences we had, and the lessons that UB taught us. All the different facets of UB have made us who we are. They are how we'll go into the real world. And here, it's where it all happened. It's the little things about UB that'll benefit us in the long run, like the groups we joined, the research teams we were part of, the Saturday nights with friends, and even those geese who somehow always seem to block the crosswalk at the worst time. While it's sad to graduate, I know we can leave here confidently knowing we're ready. We know how to give back, share our gifts and experiences. Today, we turn the page, and while the future is bright, I encourage you to remember the people who made us who we are here at UB. Cheers to the people we've become close with. Cheers to our teachers who taught us what we know. Cheers to our parents and our families who supported us. And most importantly, cheers to each other. At the end of the day, it won't matter how long you spent looking for the perfect graduation dress, or how long it took to decorate this piece of cardboard, or how many embarrassing photos your friends and family tag you in after this ceremony. But what will matter is how we use that degree that we worked so hard for. The world, it's a crazy place, but together we can improve on the future by building on what we learned here at UB. Class of 2017, here is how we take the real world by the horns. Let's show them what we've got.
The competition for the commencement student speaker was open to all graduating seniors in the College of Arts and Sciences. A committee comprised of faculty, staff, and a student representative select the student speaker. Ms. Glander will be receiving a 2017 class ring provided by Jostens and the University at Buffalo. On behalf of the College of Arts and Sciences, we wish you the very best. Thanks, Megan. Congratulations. Well, in another change, this year, for the very first time, the College of Arts and Sciences asked graduating students to vote for a faculty speaker. Students could select any member of the faculty from whom they wanted to hear a parting message. Hundreds of votes were cast. Some students even orchestrated social media campaigns for their choices. From this process, 2 professors emerged who clearly had an impact on many of our students. It is my sincere pleasure to introduce our inaugural faculty speaker for this afternoon's ceremony, Lance Rintagmaki. Yeah! Lance received his doctorate in communication from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. and held a 3-year postdoctoral fellowship in internal medicine at Northwestern University. He is a recipient of the university's highest award for undergraduate teaching, the President Emeritus and Mrs. Meyerson Award for Distinguished Undergraduate Teaching and Mentoring. Since joining UB, Lance has overhauled the undergraduate communication curriculum and succeeded in drawing Fortune 500 companies to recruit top students from the Department of Communication. His dedication to student success and his selfless commitment to UB serve as examples to all on our campus. And I am very proud to welcome your choice for faculty speaker, Lance Rintamaki.
Hi, everyone. Well, thank you very much for that very generous applause. I appreciate it. But I have to tell you, I am a little surprised to be speaking here to you today. In fact, I have been going to this graduation ceremony for the better part of a decade now, and I am always impressed with the people that have come in to speak, including folks like Senator Schumer. So why on earth am I up here? Well, as it turns out, as Dr. Schulze said, our most excellent dean for the College of Arts and Sciences, she proposed that the students in our graduating class nominate a professor, someone who has had a huge impact on their life and really affected maybe the way they move forward from this day on. And I thought that was a brilliant idea when I heard it was taking place, because we have some incredible professors at this institution, people who I respect and I look up to, who I knew would do a tremendous job as commencement speaker. And then you people picked me. And I'm still trying to figure that one out. Although, I would say, without question, I can look around, even at this podium, and I can identify people who are smarter than me, probably funnier than me, and I care a great deal about your education and your time with us. So I was really at a loss as to why so many people were happy with me and what impact I may have had on your lives. And then I remembered I teach this huge class on the science of sex. I don't know if that says more about me or more about our students, but either way, I think the mystery is solved. And I do want to look to my fellow faculty and tell you that I'm not up here because I'm anything special. I'm up here because our students are a big bunch of pervs. I did do a bunch of research looking at what it is exactly people might expect from a commencement speech, especially from a faculty member. And I will tell you that in large part, they look for the faculty to give advice to our outgoing our graduates. And for what it's worth, I'll do that. But the first thing I would like to do is tell the parents in this room thank you. And for a couple of different reasons. More than anything, it has been an absolute honor to be with your students. You've entrusted us with them and to teach them well, and that has been a real joy. And I don't know that you're aware of this, but there are around 3,300 colleges and universities in this country. They get spread out along this big continuum, and at the very far end, the really good end, they have what are called the R1 universities. These are the institutions that have been tasked by the country and by the state for creating new knowledge to benefit the world. There are an elite group to begin with, but at the very tippy end, the very best end of this, you have the top 60. And those top 60 get a designation called AAU. They become members of the Association of American Universities. These represent the very best of the best of American higher education. And for those of you who don't know it, UB is one of them. And what that means is that the pedigree that your students now take forward into the world is going to open a lot of doors for them, and it's going to make them a part of an extensive network of alumni who are going to cheer your students on and lend a helping hand in allowing them to achieve their goals, and this is a good thing. Parents, you are the reason they're here. You sent them here, so at the risk of sounding immodest on behalf of the university, I want to say good job. Thank you. On a more personal note, I want to say thank you for me and for letting me teach your students. I will say that when I mentioned earlier R1 institutions, the Research 1 institutions, it's tough to get a job at an R1 school. In fact, if you get a job at an R1 school, it basically means that you have beat out a good 100 or so other people with PhDs. These are folks who have done solid things with their lives. So that's good, but to work at an AAU institution like UB, not only do you have to beat out those 100 other faculty, but you also have to like offer up your firstborn child and take a hit out on somebody. And in a nutshell, it's a huge privilege, but I would say at the end of the day, it's worth it because teaching your students, for me, has been, at its finest, a pure joy. And I don't exaggerate with that statement. And I also know that I'm not the only faculty member up here who feels that way. So from us to you, thank you. So, on to our graduates. I know that this can be a little bit of a trying time for some of you. Maybe there's a lot of uncertainty you're facing. Some of you I know have already landed your first big job, and to you I say, fantastic. If you're someone who hasn't yet, you will. I'm not worried. It'll take place. Keep your head down, keep focused, and it'll be fine. But whichever camp you're in, I have been asked to give you a few quick words of advice. I'm going to try to keep this simple and get us on our way, because I know that people would much rather see their kids get a diploma than listen to me yammer on. But here goes. Here's my advice. Number one, to all the students in this audience right now, I ask you moving forward to respect time. And I mean that in a couple of different ways. The first is time, life has taught me, is one of our most precious gifts. I also will encourage you to revel in your youth. It is an amazing thing. But I also want to remind you that youth is not your destination. Don't get stuck in adolescence. Adulthood's awesome. Take on that mantle of responsibility and appreciate all the gifts and joy that comes with it. I also ask you to cherish your parents, and this is something that life has taught me is especially important. They love you more than you can appreciate right now, and your time with them is limited. So I encourage you not to put off saying things until later that are probably best said today. I also ask you to seek resonance in your life, and I realize that's a bit of an academic sounding phrase, but in a nutshell, I want you to find the things in your life that have meaning for you personally. And for each one of you, that might look a little different than it would for the person next to you. For some of you, it's going to be a person. For some of you, it's going to be a job or a career or a vocation. And for others of you, it's going to be a cause. But whatever those things are, and there are going to be many of them over the course of your life, I encourage you to find and hold them close to you and surround yourself with them, because I know in my life, it has made all the difference. The third thing I'm going to ask you to do is to persevere, because you guys, perseverance is everything. I think that there are times when you're going to assume the world is out to get you. But life has taught me that more often than not, life doesn't care. The world doesn't care. To the world, you're just not that important. So what I'm going to tell you is to just focus in on you, what you can do, and do it. I don't know if you would have crossed paths with him, but one of your predecessors is a guy named Nick. Nick started off life with a couple strikes against him. To begin with, he had a really severe a heart defect when he was born, led to a number of open heart surgeries for him, including his first year here with us here at UB. The funny thing about Nick is that whenever anyone would see one of his scars, they would ask him what happened, and he would always say, "Knife fight," which always makes me laugh. The other thing about Nick is that he was born with a pretty severe learning disability. It actually takes Nick about 3 times as long to internalize information as everyone else here in this room. But the thing about Nick is that he thought law was a really noble profession, and he wanted to be a lawyer. He knew many people who were, and he really respected them. So he wanted to study to go into law. And the thing is, I would get here early in the morning, and there would be Nick studying at his cubicle on the 3rd floor, working and pushing really hard. I would go home really late at night, and there was Nick, still studying, still pushing hard, because he had to, just to keep up. And Nick did many things while he was here. He worked very hard, and I wanted you to know, last year Nick graduated from Notre Dame's law school, one of the best law schools in our country, for his field of interest. And it's not, and by the way, he also practices law here in Buffalo, so if you're looking for a good lawyer, let me know. But the point is, with Nick, he didn't accomplish all this because he's a genius. He accomplished all this because he pushed. And what I want from you folks is when you find that thing, or those things, that are super meaningful to you, I want you to latch onto them, and I want you to push. Don't be afraid to fight. And by the way, if you get knocked down, it'll happen. Get up. And if you feel as though you're not necessarily sure what to do, fake it. I'm going to tell you a real quick story about a little boy who had a crippling case of shyness and social anxiety. For him, talking in public was a nightmare. When he was in the 5th grade, he had to give a presentation to his class on the monarch butterfly. This little boy was so afraid that not only could he not speak, but he peed his pants in fear. That traumatized him for years. When he got to college, he took a public speaking class and resigned it halfway through because he couldn't talk and was doing terrible in his speeches. He took it again, resigned it a second time because he was terrified about what he was doing. He took it a third time and actually spoke with the professor about how anxious he was, and the professor said, listen, if you're that freaked out about it, just pretend you're somebody else. What would someone who's really confident and comfortable doing these things, what would that person do? And so that boy thought about it. He gave his next speech. He pretended everything was fine, and it was. Now that little boy is a professor at a university here in New York who at this moment is giving you a commencement speech in front of several thousand people. His job on a daily basis is giving speeches to hundreds of people at a time. And what I want to tell you is when I say fake it, I don't mean fake it till you make it. I mean fake it till you become it, right? I also want to end with this, and that is that 10 years ago, I met the love of my life. And since that time, we have been working hard to have a child. And unfortunately, that has not come to pass yet. And maybe that's not in the cards for us. But what I will tell you is I am not unaware of what it means to have a father's pride. I have gotten to know several of you really well over the last couple of years. And I look at the things that you have done and the things that you are doing, and I'm so proud. I cry at Kleenex commercials, so let it go. And I cannot wait to see what it is you accomplish moving forward. So don't lose touch with me. Let me know how it goes because I'll be cheering you on the entire way. And on that note, I gotta go catch a plane for Singapore. I'm not gonna stick around for the festivities afterwards. But you guys, good job, congratulations. Enjoy tonight, and on Monday, go crush it.